Big exciting news for a Monday afternoon as renewed optimism for a second stimulus deal continues to permeate across Wall Street and mainstream America. The question is when and how much. But as Steve Mnuchin raises his second stimulus check offers for both adults and dependents, is there more progress on the way? And could a second stimulus or third stimulus check be coming right after that as well? This is Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Afternoons LALATE. Hope you're good and safe in a strange but warm day here in LA. Started very cold, and now it's very, very hot. But hope you're good. The heat is heating up in Washington as well. Amidst your second stimulus check and second stimulus package negotiations overnight, over the weekend, and with the latest details breaking this afternoon. Thank you for joining me on an incredible, great day. Go to the Friends channel, subscribe, because we're trying to get to the finish line together, and also like this video. In Afternoons LALATE, we'll have a 2-hour programming block today that starts with the check. Then we'll continue with the check on the video right after that at Hazard Pay. More money, more indication, and more money for you in that video. The third video will go over FPUC, the new recall, the new options, the new negotiations, the new amounts, all very, very exciting. And finally, in the third video will be Pelosi versus Mnuchin and also EIDL loans. Incredible details across the board. And Mitch versus Donald will be in that third time slot as well. All right, let's get to what's going on this afternoon. First, the deal offered by Steve Mnuchin was revealed over the weekend, and more details about will surface this afternoon. They're incredibly good offers, and I will be going over the deal. I will be going over the deal items. I will be going over the deal amounts, especially your second stimulus check, especially FPUC. I will be going over also the renewed concern, the renewed optimism, the renewed interest on where negotiations are currently, would go, and could go in the next few days. Then we'll turn to the permutations about getting a deal done before the election or after the election. Then Wall Street. Wall Street was up sharply today. It traded really high. Why was this when there was no deal over the weekend? Well, I have the great news for you about that as well. And finally, the Supreme Court. In a day in which the Supreme Court nominee hearing was supposed to be front and center, there were still calls for second stimulus negotiations. All right, let's get to the incredible great news. I will also be answering some of your 1,400 comments from yesterday. All right, the breaking news as we sit here this afternoon is there is a very, very good deal on the table. And more of middle America, more Main Street America, more of broadcast America, and more of Democratic America understands a very good deal was offered to Nancy Pelosi. And she rejected it for reasons that are clearly political, partisan at this point. So let me go over why the deal items were so good, why the deal should not have been rejected, and why Nancy Pelosi is now under fire because of a very good press campaign by Steve Mnuchin. Throughout these negotiations, Steve Mnuchin has remained relatively quiet. He doesn't walk out of rooms and have press conferences like Nancy Pelosi. He doesn't issue, 7-paragraph statements every 2 days to his caucus, because he doesn't have a caucus, he's a cabinet member, about what Nancy did or didn't do. He relatively remains quiet. And I have called that out in some regards in recent days, saying we need to know what your offer was. We need to know how much you offered. I also called for Steve Mnuchin to raise his offer for FPUC, raise his offer for dependent checks, raise his offer for adult dependents, and also raise his offer for state and local. Well, in details revealed yesterday and today, we now know that Steve Mnuchin is either listening to these videos or is clearly in line with the Purple Power, because he did absolutely everything that I just told you. The only thing he didn't do was more retroactive for FPUC and hazard pay. But we're not done yet. This is just Monday. So, stimulus checks. Let's go over that deal. We had been with Steve Mnuchin at a $1,200 check for individuals, $2,400 check for married couple, And then the big issue came the dependents. Steve Mnuchin, up to Friday, had kept adult dependents at $500. Who are these? These are my SSDI, SSI, Social Security, Railroad Benefit viewers, my veterans, who did not get a stimulus check the first time around, perhaps, because they were dependent on someone else's tax return. And they simply just did not get a check. It wasn't fair. Well, Steve Mnuchin raised that offer from $500 before Thursday to now $1,200. Yes, finally! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Adult dependents under Steve Mnuchin's offer get a full stimulus check. All adults, despite whether you are a dependent on someone's tax return or not, gets a $1,200 stimulus check. This is incredibly great news. It seems as though maybe someone had been listening to this channel. Next, how about children? Well, Steve Mnuchin was at $500 for dependents checks. $500 across the board. Ironically, that's exactly what Temple Doom was at, $500. Well, on Friday, he rose that as well. I initially said in 28 at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, our new hit series, I had said at the early part of the video is at 500, and then later in the video, you heard me at the 10-minute mark correct myself. I said, oh, no, sorry, it's 1,000. Yes, children dependents, $1,000. Wow. Wow. So Donald Trump, weeks and weeks and weeks ago, said he wants to give you a more generous check, a bigger check than the Democrats. Well, at that time, it was not a more generous check. But today, guess what? Donald is now more generous than the Democrats. The Temple of Doom is currently at adults, $1,200. Adult dependents, my SSDI, SSI, Social Security, Railroad Benefits, viewers who are dependents on someone else's tax returns, a measly $500 after you got no stimulus check the first time around. And then child dependents, $500. Well, currently, Trump is higher. Adult dependents, $1,200. Children dependents, $1,000. So he's finally come good on his words. Now, is there room for improvement? Absolutely. Purple Power, we made it this far. We're going to continue making it further. If you don't see what Purple Power has done so far, it's incredible. Purple Power was singularly responsible for getting Mnuchin to accept the Problem Solvers bill. Before the Temple of Doom's bill came out, we said, no, whatever her bill comes out with in about 4 days from now, we started on Thursday, hers was coming out on Monday. We said, no, Steve, make it very clear, do Problem Solvers bill. Well, he initially did the Problem Solvers bill, he so claimed. It wasn't really a full version of it. It was about 80% there. And then we came back and we said, okay, thank you for doing exactly what we said, but you need to fix some things. Well, now he's fixing exactly what we're asking him to fix. There's another thing he needs to fix for the dependence check, for the checks. The second check, yes. The Problem Solvers calls for a second check in March of next year. Now, I certainly don't like it's March, but I do like it's a third check. I would call it a second, but I'm going to call it third, so it's simpler. I mean, we're just at this point, the numbering is a little confusing. I'm going to call it the third check. Well, Steve Mnuchin's current offer does not have that March check in it. So, Mr. Mnuchin, room for improvement. Add that check next year. Now, let me make something very clear to you, because we don't forget stuff on this channel. We're the Purple Power. We absolutely have, our hair does not, we do not forget stuff when we change hairstyles before retreat recordings. We remember that Steve Mnuchin a month ago said, you know what? The White House is not opposed to multiple checks over time. As we need more stimulus checks, we will send more stimulus checks out. Well, this is really great news. Now, I don't think that this White House would agree to a second stimulus check in a bill now for December. I want to make that very clear to you. But would they agree to a stimulus check in January if the president gets reelected? Oh, of course. If you go on lockdown in November and December and the president wins the reelection, of course he's going to do another stimulus check. I would be surprised if he didn't. Whether he calls it a stimulus check or whether he calls it what Larry Kudlow calls it, an assistance check, or he just calls it a check. I don't care what it's called. I don't care if it's called grits and gravy. Here's a check for $1,200 from grits and gravy. So long as I don't have to eat grits and gravy, although I do love it, but I don't want to have $1,200 worth of it. All right, so that is all incredible great news. Next, FPUC. FPUC, well, Mr. Mnuchin has been listening as well. We had been calling for FPUC to be retroactive, and he increased his FPUC He didn't increase it the right way, though, so there's again more room for improvement. I have been calling, and you have been calling, for FPUC retroactive to the date at which FPUC last expired, late July. Now, someone sent me a strange message a few minutes ago. Said, "Well, he did. Everyone's doing retroactive FPUC to September because that's when LWA ran out." Hello, FPUC is not LWA. There's a reason why there's LWA, and there's a reason why there's FPUC. FPUC is the Congress. LWA is because the president fixed something the Congress is not doing. And finally, a lot of people never got LWA because of the $100 threshold. I mean, a lot of people did not get LWA. So you can't say, oh, well, we're going to do FPUC to when LWA ran out. Oh, that's not fair whatsoever. No one thinks that's fair. We don't think it's fair. Purple Power doesn't think it's fair. So, well, the Temple of Doom, she does FPUC retroactive to September 5th, which is like, crazy date. Yeah, I understand that's when LWA ran out. That's not the benchmark. It's when FPUC ran out. Then Steve Mnuchin's current offer, well, it's really, really good. It's just good the wrong way. he's retroactive to September 12th, a week later. And then he's good because he wants to give you more FPUC in the future. So he wants to continue FPUC all the way to middle January. Okay, that's really good. I just don't particularly like it on a personal level because people are clearly unemployed in July. July was a bad month, and they need that money. So why are we not going to pay them those weeks of unemployment in July, and assume that they may be unemployed in January? They may not. And so ultimately, you could lose an entire month of FPUC from late July to September 12th under this program. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that are deal items in this that are incredibly great news that we really have to understand, and those are mortgage forbearance, rent aid, student loan debt forgiveness, money for food, money for schools, money for testing, money for tracing. And then the big one. You know what the big one is. Well, there's actually two big ones. There's PPP, which is insanely too big. But the other big one is state and local. Who is the guy in the purple shirt that was telling you for several days and saying right to the camera, Mr. Mnuchin, raise your number to 300? How many times did I say that in a purple shirt or a pink shirt or a yellow shirt? Mr. Mnuchin, go to 300 billion. Mr. Mnuchin, Mr. Meadows offered $300 billion several weeks ago. Why are you at $200 billion? This is just wasting people's time. Go to 300, which is exactly what Mark offered. Give it to Nance, and then let's call it a day. She's at 400, you're at 200, go to 300. Well, the latest offer, he did exactly that. Do you wonder if he's really watching this channel? So with that came the deal items, but also with the deal items came the negotiations and the twists and the press campaign. And that was ostensibly this. What Steve Mnuchin and the White House understood was that the Temple of Doom was playing a really good press game, having press conferences, talking about crazy people, talking about commissions for crazy people. And then ultimately they thought, we're not really saying much about ourselves. So they issued a press statement. It was not robust. Again, here comes the guy in the purple shirt. I said, we need some numbers, sir. We need to know how much our stimulus checks are. We need to know when we're getting our stimulus checks. We need to know how much we're getting for FPUC. Well, this 5-paragraph statement had no numbers in it, literally no numbers. And so yesterday, NBC News just miraculously had all the details of his line item offers, item by item by item. And finally, the two things hit at the same time. The last one was the negotiations, and this was really the big one. That the White House hit back really strong against a series of reports which they claim were liberal-minded reports that claim that the GOP is imploding, that the senators from the GOP that are very, very fiscally minded called the White House and said, stop it, Donald. Don't spend any money on those people. Don't give America any money. Don't tell anyone this. Well, apparently someone was on the phone, even though they were whispering, and allegedly leaked those details to press. Well, today the White House came out and said, no, that never happened. Sorry, folks, it never happened. We're very, very aligned, and at 1.8 billion, yeah, that would have been nice, 18 billion, 1.8 trillion, T with a T, $1.8 trillion, we have agreement from the GOPs in the Senate. This is incredibly great news. So as you sit here today, when we talk about agreement, we talk about GOP, we talk about stimulus, we talk about numbers, and the only thing that's troubling is that There's two forces not helping us: the locked door on the Senate and the Temple of Doom. There literally is a locked door on the Senate. It's closed for recess for all voting, not for House confirmation hearings for Judge Barrett, until October 18th-ish, 19th. I can't remember the exact day. So as we sit here, well, how do we get this done? And Temple of Doom, there's a new report out minutes ago, and this is about 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, that there is no calls for another vote for any revised offers on the House floor in the next few days. So at this point, you really see the push to do executive orders before or after election. This is really the key element as we're here at the 15-minute mark. Stay with me because I have a lot of big details coming up. Before or after the election, why Wall Street thinks the deal is going to come right away, and why the Supreme Court nominee actually turned into a discussion about stimulus. That's coming up in a second. First, before or after the election, I'm telling you very clearly that there really is a clear path to get you stimulus right now, before the election. And that is Purple Power, do your thing, executive orders. You've been doing it strong, and you've been doing great, and you need to continue to do it. You need executive orders for second stimulus because ultimately it's the easiest path with no resistance. The checks would be in your hands. Let's go over those routing times. If the president did executive orders today, you could get your stimulus checks within about 10 calendar days. If you're set up for SSDI, SSI, or railroad benefits for electronic payments every month. If you are not, and you get it by paper check, then just add about a week. If you pay your taxes electronically, you would also get it in that correct time frame. And also, if you are not, you get an additional week later. So as you sit here, what is today? The 12th-ish of October, 10 days, you would still get it before you go to vote in the at a polling place on election day. You may not get it until, if you're voting by mail, you might get it after you vote. But ultimately, that's really the time frame that works. Now, how about after the election? After the election, Wall Street, and this merges into the next report, Wall Street sees the possibility of stimulus after the election, and I certainly see it as well. I just see it as a hot mess expressed unto itself. I really can't predict the path. You all are always so thankful of me explaining to you how things pass through legislature, but I got to tell you, for me to explain to you how you get a bill passed through a lame duck group of people, allegedly, and I'm not being shady when calling them lame duck, not like they're lame. That's actually a term that refers to if the current incumbents lose on election day, well, they sit there all the way to January. They don't have to do anything. They still get paid, and ultimately they may not want to do anything because they don't like you and they lost. That means you may not get stimulus to January. So to make a very complicated situation very simple, I don't think that the path to get stimulus should be focused on anything after the election. It should be focused on right now because there's too many variables. Wall Street traded up really sharply today. Thinks there's going to be a stimulus deal. Phils thinks there's going to be a stimulus deal. Now, I got to tell you, there's a lot of things going on at Wall Street, and there's a lot of things that were other reasons why Wall Street was up, and that ultimately they may have embedded the optimism of a deal into the trading of Wall Street, despite whether or not there was actually any movement on negotiations today. Then, finally, the Supreme Court nominee was clouded by the question of why aren't you doing stimulus relief? When you're doing one thing but not doing another, it doesn't permeate well to the American electorate, especially when they're going to the polls and they don't have a check in their hand. And what I want you to understand as you sit here today, how much money you would have had in watching the Supreme Court nominees had the Temple of Doom accepted Steve Mnuchin's offers in July, which are ostensibly almost the same offers today. Well, you would have had, we're upwards of 10 weeks since July, approximately? August, September, October. Yeah, we're about 10 weeks. So you would have had about $4,000 of FPUC. Oh, yeah. You would have had your stimulus check by now, $1,200. If you're an individual, if you're a family of 5, you would have had $6,000, approximately. You could have had your EIDL grant. Oh, yeah. EIDL grant is in the offers here. It has always been there. You would have had your EIDL loan. There's another hazard pay-ish type CDC grant in these proposals from these two people. You would have had that. You would have had mortgage forbearance and rent aid, ability to pay your rent, money for food. You would have had all these. had she not held up the negotiations because she wants $400 billion for state and local. It's that type of stuff that we sort of sit back and say, well, this is a numbers situation, and why have we not been told numbers, and why did you keep my money? There was a lot of questions I wanted to get to, but there's a lot of stuff going on in today's video. 1,400 comments. Let me go over just a few of them. Alex, Kudlow is the only one to vote for Trump. Kathy, obviously the president should just write an executive order and just get it done. Aaron, I think the plan is to get Americans used to going without it. Dean, we need to break down the pitchforks and torches. Vicky, President Trump needs to get his pen out and sign an executive order. JJ, the only people making fortunes are political tycoons. Mel, is there anything coming our way? Michelle, I'm getting noticed by people not spending as much on the holidays. Well, Amazon Prime Day, I guess it's tomorrow. We'll see if that's true. Michelle, Aaron, I'm so pissed. Laura, all I know is that America's hurting. Gail, I'm so tired of all this. Paul, we need to protest for stimulus. Jerry, LALATE, I like your hair. If it makes you look a lot better. When are you ever going to get that stuff together? Because we need all those checks. When are they going to get all that stuff together? Because we need those checks. I thought he was talking about getting my hair together. Okay, that's a little shady. We're focusing on getting your checks. Kathy, if Trump wants the American people to support him during the election, he needs to give the American people the support. Carol, if I could care less about the airlines, they've been given billions. Michelle, pretty sure our government is going to realize too late they should have done stimulus. Yeah, they will. Very well said. I love your comment, Michelle. Thank you. John, has anyone watched Brain Dead? Cindy Ballard. Looks like we're not. It just looks like they're playing games with us. Alice, that's why they keep on going on to get voted out. Well, make sure you vote them out. And make sure you go to the channel, subscribe. Subscribe because, boy, we're an incredible community. We're trying to keep on growing. We're trying to get to 300,000 subscribers. Let's get there. Let's get there. Let's make a benchmark, and let's get to 300,000 subscribers. We're all here together, and really appreciate you sharing these videos on Facebook, sharing them on Twitter, and tagging your politicians with these videos. It's turning the corner. Also, like this video. Coming up next is a continuation of this video, so please stay with me. It will be with the hazard pay in the title, but it will focus additionally on these incredible deal terms. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay at LA for more.